In the world of Bastunia, no person is a victim who is not a victim in their own minds. Now, if somebody got attacked by an Azigra and they were injured, if they looked at this as this is part of my trials that are helping me self-actualize, and that's a very explorer mindset. Or if they looked at this as a defender, I am here to hone my skills, and this battle, although I was bested, is going to prepare me to be the best possible defender, then it doesn't, that sort of mentality that life is happening for you and not to you does not remove the wounds. But what it does is it does not add an additional cloud uh, in front of your being, your beingness. So some of the favorite philosophers of Dylan Barr and myself share this concept that as far as your inner self, the capital S, the version of you that you were born to be, that is like the sun, and that sun is always shining. You always have access to your capital S self, who you were born to be, right? But through conditioning, through programming, through trauma, through life, you're in this world. Eventually, there's clouds that roll in. And the victim mentality that we see so prevalent in Earth world is like another cloud that rolls in. Not only do you have this first thing that happened that's blotting out the sun, but now you also have a victim mentality. And sometimes there's guilt that rolls in, and there's shame that rolls in. And the next thing you know, you're a very overcast person, and the sun is still shining. You still have access to this highest self, but there's so many clouds in the way. So you're not shining anymore. Well, the book recommendation that I want to make in this video is called The Biology of Belief. And you'll see the biology belief reflected in the mindsets of some of the heroes of Bastunia. You'll see this in Joan's mindset eventually. You'll see this in Artie. This is kind of just flowing out of James, and James loves to teach. You'll see this in almost everything that James teaches, this idea that you're always shining. We just have to clear away the clouds. And so in The Biology of Belief, it's a book about cellular biology. And the reason I love it so much is historically, in the nature versus nurture conversation, there's been this idea that nature is actually more important, that genetic determinism and this reverence to Sir Isaac Newton and his laws had led us to believe that you can get a good hand genetically, or you can get a bad hand genetically, and your life is going to be largely dictated by your genes. Well, it's something like 3% of all illnesses are genetic. So 97% of all illnesses have nothing to do with your genes, or don't guarantee you illness because of your genes. So in walks this science of epigenetics, which kind of flips the whole nature versus nurture conversation on its head. And it says that there's a two-way street of information flowing in either directions. It's not just from your genes to your genetic expression, it's also from your environment back to your genes, so that you can influence what genes are expressing themselves by influencing your environment, because your cells are always listening, and they're always tuned in to what do we need to express in this environment that we're in. Now, environment is not just this local, the sun is shining and I'm in the woods, the sun is shining, I'm on my couch. It's also the foods that you eat, because think of environment on a cellular level. It's like you're introducing a lot of these chemicals through your food, these substances, this nourishment. But the part that blew my mind about this is that your environment also has a lot to do with your thoughts, your beliefs, the ideas that you hold. So here's a quick example on how it might show up in Bastunia. Let's say that one of our main characters is out in the middle of the woods, and they hear a beast. They hear some sort of non-earth creature that's threatening them. Let's call it for the sake of this video, a saber-toothed tiger that exists on Earth. and they're going to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. While they're running away from the saber-toothed tiger, their body is having a stress response, and it's flooding their bloodstream with this chemical that will thicken their blood, so that if they do get attacked and they get cut and they're bleeding, they won't just bleed out, but the thick blood will slow down, it'll coagulate, and they'll heal without dying. But thick blood is harder to pump through your heart, for your heart, than thinner blood. So this stress hormone, this cortisol, is keeping you alive in a scenario where you are endangered and you're a survival scenario, which is great, evolutionarily speaking. But most people are not dealing with your daily run from the saber-toothed tiger. So if you go through life in a stressed state, believing that the world means you harm, and your blood is thicker because of what is being created and the genetic response to your environment. If you go through the world believing that the world means you well, then instead of your genes expressing and the hormones being created that will keep you alive, something completely different will take its place. So there's a succulent out in California, only flowers in California, where it's under the ideal environment for itself. Now, its ideal environment is the right soil, the right sunshine, and those types of things. As far as I know, they're not having very deep philosophical thoughts as a succulent, but our environments are a lot more complex. So in the world of Bastunia, you get called to be radical with how much you mind your environment. And if our heroes are ever going to actualize themselves, it's only because they were really deliberate about what they're putting in, not just food, but ideas, beliefs, surrounding themselves with the right people. And so you'll see these main characters saying, life is happening for me so that I can clear away these clouds that were rolled in through my programming, through my conditioning. I too am of the world despite my best efforts. And only through the crucible, only by facing the perils of great strife, will I one day be able to have the pearls of great price and clear some of these things out. So they embrace challenge because they recognize that it's not there to hold them down, but it's there to allow them to shine. So keep a lookout for these types of mentalities in the Unfound Anamnesis. And if you're looking for a good book on cellular biology and its implications on things like the placebo effect and organ transplants and these things that'll blow your mind, grab that book. You'll love it. The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton.